We have here an RX3000 station. This is the way it's received from the factory. See, it says time sensitive. That's due to the service plan that you purchase. When you purchase an RX3000, you do purchase a service plan for use with that device, whether it is a cellular device or a Wi-Fi or a mobile phone Wi-Fi or Ethernet device. You still have to include a service plan on your order, even if it's the free of charge plan for the Wi-Fi and Ethernet devices. So the logger is received in this box. You can see here on the label we have the part number, the serial number of the device, what service plan was included, and the service plan is loaded into the device. This is the SP007 plan, which is free of charge for Wi-Fi and Ethernet. This is an Ethernet RX3000. And the device key. This information is also on the inside cover of the logger, and we're going to see that in a moment. Even if you purchase a mobile phone version and you're going to put in your own SIM module, you still have to specify the service plan, which is SP600, and that will be noted here. The reason that is because the service plans are programmed into these devices at the factory before they're shipped to you. So we're going to unpack this device. I have my trusty Leatherman tool that has a knife blade on it. It's taped shut. So we're going to open that tape, unpackage the device. So here is our RX3000, the way it is received from the factory. The first thing you will notice is the quick start guide. Don't throw this away. You need to read through this, understand it, follow the directions that are in here. Basically, the first thing that it has you do is it talks about creating a Hobo Link account. This device, you will get its data from your web browser. So you need to create a Hobo Link account on your computer, using your browser with a computer that's connected to the internet, of course. And then you have to, it's 2 steps. You create the Hobo Link account. We'll show you how to do that. And then once your account is created and the Hobo Link administrator sends you an email in response to that creation, you can then register the station, register the RX3000 in your account, where you would put in your serial number and your device key number from this device. Then you can go through and install your optional modules. We have 2 modules we're going to install for you. We also have a charger, an AC charger for this device. It is an Ethernet device. And we'll go through those steps for you. And again here, this is a warning statement just here that talks about FCC interference compliance. So if you want to read through that, don't discard these. Hang on to them for future reference. Here's the station. There are some accessories that come with this device. These are this is the mounting flange. There's 2 pieces here with screws. Allows you to basically mount this to a 1 5/8 inch mast or to a flat surface. So you install those on the back of the logger. We'll show you how to do that. These clamps here, these are designed to hold the device to our tripod or our mounting mast, which is 1 inch and 5/8 in diameter. If you wanted to just mount it to a flat surface, you can just put these mounting flanges on here and just mount it directly to that flat surface. I can show you how to do that. Comes with a little screwdriver, some zip ties. There's also a green grounding wire that's very important. You want to make sure that this device is electrically grounded. So we're going to set this aside for just a moment until we get the logger unpacked. So here's our data logger. We'll put our packing materials away. There's our logger. Just an orientation. This is the bottom of the logger. This is where the charger can be put in through this hole here. There's a cable gland that's inside this box here that I'll show you how to install. There's also a gland that protects the smart sensors. You can look down in here. These are all the smart sensor jacks. And again, our grounding lug is also in here. We need to connect that ground lead too. Open up the box here, and there's some additional information. This is the channel kit that comes with the device. Comes with these glands. The holes are to let cables through. We have plugs for unused holes. Some of the holes are bigger, and this is the small. Again, this is the small channel. This is the larger channel, so we have a gland for each one of those. The small channel gland has some larger wires. That's to allow, or larger holes, I should say, that allow you the ability to put in the charging cable either from the solar panel or from the AC charger, AC adapter, or if you're using the optional charging cable, that will fit through there as well. We'll set this aside. There's a installation guide in here that's very helpful. So here's our RX3000. You can see these are the optional module inputs. We're going to install one of each of the optional modules for you to show you how that works. This is the door that covers the SIM module. If you have a cellular or mobile phone based RX3000, this is where that SIM module will live. This is an Ethernet device, so it doesn't have a SIM module, but if it was a mobile phone version, this is where it would live. Our LCD display. Here's the Ethernet jack. See here, typical Cat5 connection. These two connections are for the battery and for the charger. These wires right here that you see that are disconnected, this is our battery connection. The battery is located behind the electronics in here. You can't see it, but every device gets shipped with a fully charged battery, and that's what this connector is. The reason it's disconnected is we don't want to be using battery power while it's in transit. And again, this is our charging jack for AC charger, solar panel, or third-party external charging source using our optional charging cable. That's where that would be connected. You want to make sure that you don't connect your charging device prior to hooking up the battery. You want to use the battery as your it's a battery-powered device. Anything else that you plug into this jack here, the second jack, is used to keep that battery charged. It's not used to power the device. One thing to keep in mind is if you are buying an RX3000 to replace one of our old U30s and you're going to use the same sensors, you probably want to, you definitely want to disconnect the sensors from the U30 and then power up the U30 and let it connect up the Hobo Link once with the sensors disconnected, and that will disassociate those sensors from that U30 in that account. If you don't do that, you could run into issues with the database. This is covered in the manual as well. You want to make sure that you do that if you're going to be using the same sensors on the RX3000 that you use with your U30. On the inside cover, here you can see there's a label. Hopefully there's not too much reflection here. Basically, here it shows you kind of a map of the LCD display. Up here you can see the part number, the device key, and the serial number. You will need the device key and the serial number when you're creating your Hobo Link account. There's also information about push button operation. Again, you can see the 3 push buttons here. Also, some fault codes that could show up in your LCD if there's a problem. The LCD is there to give you information about connection and sensors. It doesn't give you real-time data display. The other port that's included here that we didn't talk about is there's a USB port right here, USB connection. The USB connection is used to, in this case, this is an Ethernet device. If you need to program in a static IP number, IP address, you use HoboWare, which is our free of charge software available from our website, to program in that static IP. If this was an Ethernet device, if this was a Wi-Fi device, you would use this port to, again, and use the free version of HoboWare to program in your network information for the Wi-Fi. Your SSID, which is your network name, your encryption method, your passphrase, you would use that HoboWare via this USB port to do that. The other function for the USB with HoboWare is you can get the latest conditions from your sensors. You can also use it as an emergency offload of data. Again, it comes out in binary format, so it's not anything you can read, but you can send it to our technical support people, and that will get over to engineering, and they'll stitch that back into the Hobo Link database. Again, this is a remote monitoring system. It's not meant for a local offload. It's meant to transmit data to a database that's maintained at the Hobo Link server.
I thought I would go through a few of the steps in the Quick Start Guide, guide you through those. So the first two steps are to log in to Hobo Link. If you don't have an account, we're going to show you how to create one, and then we're going to show you how to register that device in Hobo Link. Here we are in our Hobo Link interface. Again, we type www.hobolink.com, just like the Quick Start Guide told us to do. And we need to either log into an existing account or create an account if we don't have one. The way you would create an account, you click on the Create an Account link here. You put in your first and last name, your email address, what you would like your username and password to be, and you have to agree to the terms of use for the website. So once you click on I agree, down in the lower right hand corner there's a button that says Create Account. We're not going to do that now because we're going to log into an existing account, but you need to do this to get yourself up and running. So here we're back at the main Hobo Link page. What happens when you do that create an account and say click on create an account on that form is it gets sent over to the Hobo Link administrator, which is an automated service that registers your account information and sends you an email and then with a link. So once that's done and you get that email, you click on the link and it takes you back to this page and you can log in with your chosen username and password. I'm using Google Chrome and I've saved my username and password from a previous login, so that's why this populated here. So this is my product marketing account and my password is in there. I'm going to log in. Here's a list of all my devices that are currently in my account. If you just created your account, this would be empty. So I have 5 devices in this account. There's no limit to how many devices you can have connected. Also below this is an MX1102 data file that was pushed to this account. We're not going to talk about that in this particular instance. However, there is information online about how to do that. So what I want to do now is register this new device. So to do that, I will click on the Register a Device link. So this is where we will give it a name, and what we call a nickname. This can be changed later on. So right now we're just going to call this an RX3000 Ethernet example. On the inside door of that RX3000 and on the outside of the box is the serial number and the device key. So we're going to put those in here, and then we're going to click on I agree to the terms and conditions, and then there's a button down here where it says register, and we're going to click on that and it will register that device into this account. Now we can see under our devices, when we go back to the devices list, here is our RX3000 Ethernet example. logger that is now in our account. And if we click on that, it will take us to the device page. And basically, what it will say, it will come up and say, awaiting first call under the activity log. And the reason it's saying that is because this has just been claimed into this account, and you need to initiate a call from the device. Keep in mind that you always have to do that with a new device. So you don't want to just put it out in the field and leave it there, because you do have to take some action with that unit for the first connection. So we're going to go through that for you. We're going to follow through that quick start guide, and then we'll get this up and running. The next step in the quick start guide is to install the optional analog or relay modules. But before I move on to that, I just want to show you how to connect the ground wire, and also how to plug in a smart sensor. And then we'll immediately go into installing those optional modules.
I want to show you how to connect up the ground wire in the RX3000, and also how to hook up a smart sensor. So here's the ground wire that comes with the mounting kit. You can see there's a little male terminal on here that slides into corresponding female terminal on the PC board in the bottom of the logger. And on the other end, there is a ring terminal. And this is designed to slide over the clamp on the bottom here. When you clamp it to a tripod, we're assuming you're following the instructions and grounding that tripod. So by attaching this to the bracket, the clamp that holds this to the tripod, you're grounding the logger also. So that is recommended, especially if you're using mechanical wind speed sensors, which can generate a static charge, can build up a static charge because of those moving parts, and we need a place to discharge that so it doesn't go back through the bus. So in the bottom of the logger itself, you can see here again we have our two slots here, our two access points, and over here in the corner there's something labeled GL2, and that's where the ground wire gets attached. So I like to do it like this, go through the top here, the door open, and just slide that into that female connector. And again, you can use needle nose or something. I just use my fingernail, and it just seats right in there just nicely. And then pass the ground lead out through the bottom penetration. And there's some shrink tubing on there that allow us to capture it in the channel kit. I have a smart sensor cable here. This is from a temperature and relative humidity sensor, and I want to plug this into my smart sensor bus. The smart sensor bus again is in this bottom part of the logger. I'm going to move my battery out of the way here. My battery terminals. And this can be mounted, or this can be plugged into any one of these jacks. This is a common bus, so it doesn't matter where they get plugged in. Just slide it in, contacts down, and it'll just snap right into place like that. Again, keep in mind it doesn't matter where this gets located. They're oriented in Hobo Link by serial number, not by physical position. That makes no difference. You can rearrange those how they are displayed in Hobo Link just by dragging and dropping one sensor to another location, but it really makes no difference as to where it's plugged in. We're going to install two optional modules into this RX3000. There are currently two optional modules available. This is the analog, the 4-channel analog module. This is the way it comes packaged from the factory. You do order it separately from the logger. We unpack it. Comes wrapped in a little bubble wrap bag. Also comes with a little instruction. Talks about how to install it. So here's the module itself. Very simple to install. There's 4 inputs available, as well as 12-volt excitation power. To install the module, it's very simple. You can see there's a little connector here that mates to either one of these slots. It doesn't matter where it goes. You just want to kind of wiggle it a little bit so it goes in there. Press, and that's seated. And then we'll just screw down the little Phillips screw. That'll hold it from falling out. Again, you can install, these are optional depending on your application. You can install 2 analog modules, which gives you 8 analog inputs, or you can put just 1 in. It doesn't matter which location it's installed in. The other module that's available is the relay module. It's 3 relay outputs. And again, you could put 2 of these modules in there if you want to. It doesn't matter where it's installed. Again, it comes in the little bag. We've got our manual, shows how to install it. Here's our 3 relays. You can, again, you've got you can program it in Hobo Link to be either normally open or normally closed or pulsed. And there's a shield connection and then 2 terminals for your wires. Again, to install it, here's your kit, here's your connector. You just kind of wiggle it into place here. And it'll fit just like that. Slide it in. And then tighten down the mounting screw.
Next portion of the quick start guide is to plug in the battery in the charger, power up the device. Let's have a look at that.
We have the logger all ready to go here. We have our Ethernet cable connected here to our Ethernet port, and we're going to plug in the battery and we're going to power up this device. We want to show you what that LCD looks like. First thing that happens is all the segments illuminate, and then it will go through and show us what the firmware version is, and then it will go through the boot up process showing you, again, it's initializing the system, and it will go out and query each bus, both analog and smart sensor, and show us how many channels are connected. We see just 2 channels because we just have 1 smart sensor connected. It's the temperature and relative humidity sensor. So that is what we call 2 data channels, but 1 physical connection. The analog module will show up as connected but not configured. If we click on the select button here, you'll see smart sensors, 2 channels, modules, module 1, 0 channels because they're not configured yet. And the relays, we see they're open, 3 opens. So now we're below where it says system is a little Ethernet Cat5 connection icon, and we're waiting for that to go through its configuration. There it goes, and it's beginning to connect via the Ethernet connection, and there's a little flashing Ethernet LED here. You probably can't see, well, you can probably see that. This is configured from the factory for DHCP, which will automatically assign an IP address to this device. If your network doesn't support DHCP and you need to put in a static IP address, you can do that via the USB port. Again, we talked about that earlier, and you can use the free version of HoboWare. You can download that from our website and use that to configure your static IP address.
To configure a static IP for your Ethernet device or to put in Wi-Fi information like the SSID, which is the network name, or the passphrase, etc. You can use the free version of HoboWare and use a utility called the RX3000 Manager. To get to that, you go to the Device menu and click on Manage RX3000. And you get the RX3000 Manager opens. So you get the latest conditions. Here's our 2 measurements from our one smart sensor. We haven't started logging yet, so that's why it's saying awaiting reading. And our analog channel. If we want to configure the network information, we'll click on Actions, and we get a Network Access menu option. And here we get into the Ethernet configuration. If we don't want to use DHCP, we could uncheck this, and then we can put in a static IP number and all the other information for our network. However, our network supports DHCP, so we're going to leave this checked, and we're not going to save it or anything. But if you did make a change, you save it. We're not making any changes, so we'll just cancel out of this.
There we have a little check mark next to connection, and it says last connection. Check mark meaning it was successful. It was successful to connect, and it connected to Hobo Link. So you see we have 3 push buttons. This is select. Again, we showed you what that did. There's one that says start, and then there's the little cloud icon. The cloud icon will cause the logger to call Hobo Link, but nothing will happen. All it will do is call Hobo Link, and if Hobo Link has had no changes made to its configuration since the last time the logger connected, all it will do was connect. The difference between that and start is if you are not logging and you press the start button here, it will place a call to Hobo Link and start the logger logging. If you just press cloud, if you didn't turn logging on in the Hobo Link interface, all it will do is connect. If it sees no changes, it will take no action. It will just connect, and that's it. So the cloud button is great for if you're local to the device and you made some kind of change in Hobo Link and you want to see how that is reflected immediately. So in other words, if you say you went in and you configured your analog module for scaling or something, and the logger is still local to you and you don't want to wait till the next connection, keep in mind the logger calls us, we can't call it. So you have to initiate a call in order to see that change right away. You would do that by pressing the cloud button. So we're going to press the start button because we want the logger to begin logging. Notice above you can see this little icon here. Hopefully there's not too much of a reflection. There's a little battery indicator, and then above that it says stopped. If we press start, it will go out, it will place a call to Hobo Link, and then what we should see is we'll see that stopped indication changed to logging, and it will be flashing the word logging. We'll wait for that to happen. And there's our checkbox, and now we can see above where the memory indication is, there's a little flashing logging indication. So we are up and running.
And now if we go back into Hobo Link for our RX3000 Ethernet example, we'll see a little green heartbeat. Here this means that the logger is now logging. It says logging has been started if we hover over that. And if we scroll down in the left margin of the activity log, it'll tell us when the next connection is expected. So it doesn't say awaiting first call anymore. We are now up and running, and we can go in and configure our analog channels, our logging interval, what we want our connection interval to be, etc.